Alright, what is going on, guys? I'm We Got Bored and welcome back to another video. So my last couple of videos, and by last couple of videos I mean like last 12 videos, have all been story times, and I kind of ran out of interesting things in my life. So in this video we're going to be switching it up a little, okay? Because this video is going to be about teachers. Specifically all the bad teachers I've had in my life, because my videos aren't funny unless I'm getting bullied. So let's just get right into it. So the first teacher that we're going to be talking about in this video is a science teacher that I have right now, and he's quite the quirky one, okay? I didn't know if you noticed, but this video is about all the weird teachers that I've had, and a lot of people that go to my school have been requesting me to talk about this teacher, and since I have him, I thought it would be appropriate to make a video about him because there's a lot to say. So because we're not going to use anybody's real name in these videos, because we never do that, because we want to respect people's privacy, we're going to be calling this teacher Mr. McBad for the sake of this video. So when I walked into Mr. McBad's class on the first day of school, I was an ignorant little man, okay? I thought that everything was gonna be a-okay. He seemed like a pretty nice guy. He seemed a little weird, but overall, I thought his class was gonna be perfectly fine. Sometimes he could be a little annoying, but most of the time he was a really laid-back teacher, and there was nothing really to complain about, so we were just cruising for a breeze in the first couple weeks of class. But Mr. McBad is one of those teachers who tries to be funny and is never funny because he's a teacher, and I think I talked about this in another video before, but when teachers try to be funny, it's overall just awful. Like, if there's any teachers watching this video who need some teaching advice because their kids don't like them, the one thing you should never do is try to be funny. Because for some reason, no matter how hard these middle school teachers try to be funny and make their kids laugh at like these staged jokes, they are never funny. So Mr. McBad had this thing of saying an unfunny joke, having nobody laugh at it, and then repeating the same joke. Like during the beginning of the school year, every time everybody in class was talking because the class is boring and they're just like trying to have some social interaction, he would always say, "Can you guys please rest your voices?" And if you don't know, that's my funny way of saying be quiet. And every time he would say rest your voices because that's his polite way of saying be quiet, nobody would laugh, but he would still say it every time anybody was talking. And to this day, every time anybody is talking in class, he still goes, "Oh, can you please rest your voices because that's my polite way of saying be quiet." And the worst part is, every time he says it, he gets like this smile on his face because he thinks he's being funny, but nobody is laughing at all. So yeah, that's just one of the examples of Mr. McBad's very funny jokes that he repeats every single class at least 6 times that nobody likes, and that's one of the reasons why he's really, really annoying. Like, I'm just there to learn some science and learn about the water cycle and how evaporation works, but he's just sitting there trying to run a comedy club, and he has like the same 5 jokes that he says every single time, and it's so annoying. But at this point in the video, many of you may be thinking, "Adam, what's so bad about Mr. McBad? What makes him named Mr. McBad? Like, what could possibly be so wrong with him not being funny?" Because like, that's not that bad. He's still just trying to teach you about the water cycle at the end of the day. So Mr. McBad, I don't know if I've explained this to you guys, or maybe I put a picture up on the screen representing him somewhere in the video earlier, but Mr. McBad looks like a little bit of a funky monkey, okay? He looks like the type of person to not be the best with social interaction, if you know what I mean. He looks like the weird kid in school who didn't have that many friends. And from his very funny comedy club science class jokes, you can tell that he's kind of socially awkward, but that's okay, you know, usually it's fine. But this one day in class, we were just sitting there doing our normal thing, and I raised my hand to ask a question, or like answer a question or something, but I raised my hand for some reason. So Mr. McBad calls on me, and I answered the question, and everything's fine, but then after I answer the question, he goes, "Hey, don't you have a brother?" And it was pretty early in the year, so maybe he was just trying to get to know me a little better, even though that's kind of a weird question to ask, but I was just like, "Yeah, you know, I have a twin brother and a little brother. I don't know if you knew that." And so I thought that was gonna be the end of the very normal conversation, but then he goes, "Yeah, I've seen your little brother before. I've gotten to know him very well. He has those beautiful brown eyes, and he's a really nice boy." Which is true. Like, my little brother, he's my man, okay? I love my little brother. And so I was like, "Yeah, you know, he's a really nice kid," and that was the end of it. But then later, me and my friend were talking about it, and we were just talking about that class, and he brought up the fact that Mr. McBad somehow knew my little brother, and it occurred to me that it was pretty weird that he knew like a lot about my little brother, like the fact that he's really nice and he has like brown eyes and stuff, even though my little brother is in 6th grade and this teacher, Mr. McBad, only teaches 8th grade. And so it wouldn't really make much sense that Mr. McBad actually knew my little brother because he had probably never seen him before. So maybe he was just talking about my little brother because he had seen him in the hallways or something and he just wanted to confront me about it. But even still, the way that Mr. McBad said it made it kind of seem like he was stalking my little brother, and maybe he was just having one of his socially awkward moments, and he said it in such a way to make it seem like he was stalking my little brother. But I was kind of concerned because you mess with Z-Dog, you mess with me. So I asked my little brother if he knew Mr. McBad, and he said he did. He said that he had like seen him in the hallway or something, which was very reassuring to me, but it was still kind of weird. So the next teacher that I'm going to be talking about in this video is a math teacher that I have right now, and for the first couple weeks of school, like all my other teachers, I'm noticing this is kind of a trend, but for the first couple weeks of school, she seemed like a pretty normal teacher, but there was this one thing that she wasn't really good at doing, and you know, of all the things with being a teacher, there's some stuff that some teachers are better than others at, but this one thing that this teacher is not good at is teaching us what we need to know. Like, you'll be doing this stuff in class, and you'll think you know everything, you know, like 2 plus 2 equals 4, 5 plus 5 equals 12, all the easy, simple stuff. You're like, I got this down, but then the test comes, and you're completely bamboozled. Like, the test will be on, like, multiplication or something, and I never learned multiplication. Like, how am I supposed to know that? It's so hard. But jokes aside, though, this teacher just had a thing for being really bad at teaching us the stuff that we actually needed to know for the test. Like, I've never been amazing at math, you know, I was never the top student in the class, but I got by in math most of the time. But the first test that we took this year, I got a 60%. And like, while I am stupid, it's not just cause I'm stupid. Like, the class average was like a 69 or something. Like, nobody did good on this test because this teacher is just not good at teaching stuff. So for the sake of this video, we're just gonna call this teacher Miss Red, okay? So I walk into Miss Red's class on a fine Monday morning. I don't even know if it was a Monday morning, but I'm just trying to set the tone. So I walk into Miss Red's class and I realize that we have a test, but it's a-okay. I'm pretty caught up with everything we're doing in the class, or so I think. And the test wasn't even supposed to be a big deal anyway. It was just like a 5-minute thing that we were supposed to do on like a note card. So I'm in Miss Red's class feeling pretty confident for the test. So I sit down and we get all the note cards and stuff, and she puts like the question up on the board. And it was one of those tests where you can like give it to her and she'll give it back to you if you did something wrong. And so I'm doing this test and there's like 3 questions, right? Because it's supposed to be a quick thing. And on the 3rd question, there's something that comes up that like we never really focused on much. Like, the thing we were doing was with a graph, and there was a graph there and I was fine with the graph stuff, but then there was some like equation thing that we had to do and I was pretty confused on it. But I'm just like, whatever, if it is wrong, she'll give it back to me and everything's a-okay and I could try it again, right? And since we never really learned the equation thing in class, everybody is giving it to her and getting it back because they did it wrong. But then this one girl sitting next to me decides to turn hers in just like to see if she might be right, and she ended up being right. So she turns hers into the teacher and the teacher goes, oh yeah, this is great, I can't believe you got it right, everybody else is getting it wrong. So she just goes back to her seat as normal and just sits there minding her own business. But then after the girl sitting next to me got it right, everybody else started turning it in and getting it right. And so the teacher started accepting theirs and like not giving it back to them because they were right, and everybody got theirs turned in with everything a-okay, and everybody was feeling really good because they finally actually got everything right. So everything's all good in the hood. The teacher has all the tests, everybody's finished it and gotten it right, and everybody's just feeling good about themselves. But then the teacher looks at all the tests and gets up from her seat and she says the dumbest set of words that have ever come out of a human being's mouth since the time where people couldn't speak. So she gets up and goes, okay guys, so I don't think any of you guys were cheating. I didn't see anybody getting up and talking to anybody during the test. I didn't see anybody looking at each other's papers or doing anything where anybody could possibly be cheating at all. But since one person got it right and then all of the rest of the people started getting it right, I'm gonna have you guys retake the test because I think you guys were cheating. Which was really stupid because, like she said herself, nobody was speaking to each other or looking at anybody else's papers during the test, so there's no way anybody could have cheated. And also at our school, there's these things that are like walls between people when you take tests. So you can try your hardest, your very hardest. You can try harder than you did on all of the tests, and you could not see somebody else's paper for the life of you. And like the teacher always says, keep your eyes on your paper. Like, everybody had their eyes on their own paper. But Miss Red still had the audacity to accuse us of cheating, which was just a completely immoral move. But not only does Miss Red say that we're gonna have to redo the test because she thought we were cheating even though there was no way we were, and I was sitting right next to the girl who got the right answer and she wasn't saying a word. But Miss Red also tells us that the new test that she's gonna make us do is gonna be harder than the old one. So we had our lunch period in the middle of that class, and so we all went to lunch very frustrated about what this teacher has done to us, and then we came back from lunch all all hyped up to do well on this test and show this teacher wrong. And so Miss Red gives us the new test, and she says, okay, so there's 4 different tests that I've given you guys, and so you will probably not have the same test as the kid sitting next to you, so there is no way you guys can cheat on this one. So Miss Red has this smile on her face, and she thinks that she's gonna prove us all wrong and show us that we were cheating and prove us stinky young people all wrong. And so she gives us this test, and there's no graph. Like, the stuff we were doing in class was dealing with graphs and doing all this stuff that we were doing with graphs, but then now she was asking us to do it all in our head with no graph and just using the numbers, which we had never learned. And like, she had said herself that the new test was gonna be harder than the old one, and she was right. Like, everybody was struggling on it. So as she was passing the test out, I decided to raise my hand and say, before we start the test, can you please explain to us and go over again how we do this, because I don't remember learning this in class. And this teacher, Miss Red, has the audacity to go, no, you should have been listening when we were doing it in class. Now I know what type of student you are, because you clearly weren't listening when we went over this in class multiple times. So Miss Red just shuts me down after I just try to ask for some help, and we're all doing the test and everybody is struggling, and we're all bringing up our tests, and she's saying that it's wrong for every single one of us. She's like, no, this is wrong, I can't accept this, because of course, since she made it harder, which she said herself, it's not just me making stuff up, she said herself that she was making the test harder, so of course everybody was getting it wrong. So everybody's turning in their tests with wrong answers because the test is harder than what we actually learned, and she's just looking at them and she's like, got this big smirk on her face, and she's like, yeah, this is really telling me that you guys were cheating, because before you got them all right, but now when you can't cheat, you're getting them wrong. And so I, in a mannerly fashion, politely raise my hand and go, excuse me, Miss Poo Poo Face, this logic of yours is very pee-pee stupid, and I feel that we are getting all this wrong because you didn't teach us this and you made it harder. No, just kidding, I don't actually have enough balls to say that. But on that note, guys, that's gonna be the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed making it. There was a little more that happened after, but it would have taken the video from like 10 minutes to like 15 minutes. And of course, I would never want to make you listen to my voice for that long, so that's gonna be it for today's video. If you did enjoy, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We got bored for more random videos at random times, and I will see you guys in the next one.